Hey everyone, welcome to episode 10 of the photo show. My name is Brian Matiash. This is the very first Facebook Live photo show dedicated to photography and video and the tech surrounding it. And today is going to be kind of a tech-filled show. I think I said today's date. It's Thursday, May 19th. I feel like I want to say that just to kind of chronicle each episode. The reason why I didn't do my show yesterday is because I was waiting for a particular piece of new hardware to deliver, and it was at the local Portland FedEx station, and it was there. It was there well before yesterday, but the actual status on FedEx said not scheduled for delivery, holding. It's because FedEx said it's supposed to schedule for today, but even though it was at the facility yesterday, they physically held it. Woozah. Fine. So, the first thing I want to show you is a product that was announced but has not yet been released. I had a kind of a fun time using it back in December, right around the Christmas season, and it's called the ExoLens. And so what it is a company called Fellows. It's right here. This is the box. A company called Fellows, which I'm sure you guys have heard of. They partnered with Zeiss, makers of some of the greatest lenses out there, to make mobile lenses and this is for the iPhone. Just one of those things a partnership I never really expected. And I'm going to show you, just some quick and dirty things about it, because next week I'm actually going to be conducting the photo show live on Zeiss's Facebook page, which is pretty cool. And it's going to be all about this lens. So I'm going to, just to show you really quickly some stuff, let's switch over to this camera here. Let's actually take off the, okay. So, and wait, Forrest, so you're saying, so it's literally mobile phones just for iPhone, isn't it? It is. Right now, this is pretty much for the iPhone. And I'll show you, I don't know what the plans are in terms of whether it's going to be made for other phones. And the reason for that is because it has this very kind of molded, this slide-on bracket. And it's, this is hard. It's not like flexible kind of cheap stuff. And again, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I just want to show you, and I'll show you some photos I took during lunch today. But it slides on, so let me just make sure you can see that. So there we go. There. So it actually has a cool kind of futuristic look, but it is a very, very nice form. And what's great about it actually is I thought it would actually hit the volume buttons, but it's not. It actually, the volume button doesn't get touched. There's a little bit of a gap. And then look how cute this lens is. There we go. Oops, there. It looks like a tiny little kind of Batis toy, Zeiss Batis. And it comes with a removable hood and a lens cap. Both of them snap on. They don't screw on. So you just there's a rubber gasket and you just kind of push it on. And then what you do is it's threaded. So there's no like crappy, I've seen other lenses and they kind of like stick on, or they use magnets or something like that. This actually screws on. And here's one little thing that I really appreciate. It's a small thing. Let me just do it without actually dropping it because I'm concentrating, doing like 3 things at once. But here, so this is what I love. When it screws on, it's aligned so that you see the Zeiss logo. There we go. You see the Zeiss logo and the ExoLens logo. There it is. So it's always there. And to me, from just kind of a branding perspective, I think that's brilliant, because I've seen things where you screw on and the alignment is completely off. So I like that. And then here, I'll just kind of throw up the camera and you can see it's the equivalent of an 18mm lens. And I bring this fact up because it's one of the main reasons why I waited for today, because the other thing I took a photo. The other thing I wanted to show you was this beautiful boy, which is getting totally blown out. There it is. This is the brand new Zeiss Batis 18mm 2.8. This was another lens I had the opportunity, actually let me switch really quickly to there. All right, so here, let's just kind of keep this there. Okay. I wonder if that's going to mess up with the focus. This lens, I'm a Zeiss Global Lens Ambassador. So one of the benefits of that is I got this lens back in January or December. And no, I mean, it wasn't announced. It was still kind of, don't show anyone this, don't post any photos from it because of the metadata. So I got to play around with it, but it sucked because I couldn't tell anyone and I couldn't share photos. It's a superb lens. I have both the 25 millimeter and the 85 millimeter Batis as well. The 85 is just tremendous. The 25 is great if you're kind of on the fence and you didn't want a 24 to 70, but you wanted to be in that focal length. The 25 would be a perfect solution there. And so what I'd like to do is, actually, let me look to see if there are any questions or comments. Forrest isn't too happy that that's not Android or for other phones because he's saying that iPhones don't shoot RAW, which is kind of true-ish. Yeah, they really, I mean, they'll ingest RAW, so you could, using like on an iPad, you can use that SD reader or the USB reader to Lightning and read RAW files, but it won't, they haven't opened up any sort of RAW format yet, which is kind of a bummer. Hopefully with iOS 10, I mean, we just had Google I/O and Android had RAW for forever, but sure, I hopefully with WWDC, which is next month, which is Apple's version of Google I/O, they'll announce some stuff there for iOS 10. We'll see. I mean, I agree with you, but to be honest, like, yeah, I don't know. So let me see if there. How do you become a Zeiss ambassador, Forrest? That's a very good question. It's just something they reached out to me. I've worked with them in the past, and just kind of the relationship made sense. It's not like you apply or anything like that. It's usually just kind of a relationship you form with a company. So I'm a member of Sony's Artisans of Imagery program, Zeiss's Global Lens Ambassador program, and G Technology's G Team. And those are all ambassador programs. And that could be a good episode, actually, just kind of how that works. But what I want to do now is show you the Batis. Oh, no, scratch that. I wanted to show you some photos I took with this. I took these just about an hour and a half ago. My wife, Nicole, and our friend Dave Daniels from Salt Lake City, he's in town staying with us for the weekend, and so we took him to lunch to Boxer Ramen, which if you're in Portland and you like ramen, go to Boxer Ramen. So Boxer, like a boxer, or like a dog, or Mike Tyson, and just have the most amazing ramen. And this is kind of their entryway, are these umbrellas. So this was taken with the ExoLens, the wide angle, again 18 millimeter equivalent. I don't think I could zoom in here. I can't, unfortunately, because I'm not sharing my screen. But I looked when I zoomed in, and corner to quarter sharpness. I don't want to spend too much time again because I want to go into more detail when I do the live stream next week. But yeah, these the photos are just fantastic in terms of the image production, corner to corner sharpness, the complete lack of chromatic aberration. Just very, very cool. Let's see here. My first time watching the show. Mike, welcome. Thank you, Mike. Why did Nicole only like this video and not love it? That's a good question, Mike James. That's a very, very good question. Why did Nicole just like it? Especially since we have these reactions on Facebook. Nicole, wife of mine, you're legally obligated to love everything I do. We signed a contract. So do me a favor and change your intent to love or haha. Those are the only two I'll accept. Mike James, thank you for throwing her under the bus. Big thumbs up, I appreciate that. Thank you. I just saw Nicole texted me saying it was already done. I appreciate it, thank you. So okay, let's go back to the wide camera, and I want to show you the Batis. So if you're not familiar with Zeiss lenses. This is pretty much, they all are designed the same in true German efficiency. You've got this sleeve that comes up, great. And then you flip it up and there's the, and I just opened this up, like basically lifted it up earlier just to make sure that it was in here. And so this is the lens. Now, if you hark back, I think it was to episode 2 or 3, and this is a note I need to improve on from Pat Flynn. Pat Flynn is he runs the Smart Passive Income podcast, just such a cool dude. He's a master at referencing back, and that is a faux pas that I did not turn off my ringer, and it's my buddy Joe Slager from Wacom. Sorry, Joe. To voicemail you go. So, total faux pas, So my point is, I think it was episode 2 or 3, where I talked about the importance of shopping local, like local stores, not just B&H or Adorama or Amazon for your camera gear. And so I wanted to get the Batis lens. Zeiss, they have been, the 18 millimeters have been in a major supply constraint, and I knew that this week our buddy Dave was here. We're going to go shooting a lot, and I really wanted to get more photos with this lens. So I just bought it, and well, I tried to buy it. I went to Amazon and all these places, and none of them had it, and I was like, wait, let me start calling local stores. So I called Pro Photo Supply here in Portland, and they didn't have it. I called Picture Line in Salt Lake City, and they didn't have it. And then I called Allen's Camera outside of in Pennsylvania somewhere, and they didn't have it. Finally, though, I called Glazers. That was literally my last stop, and they had one left. And so you can kind of see the Glazers sticker right there. So, the local stores, even though it's not local to Portland, it's technically Pacific Northwest in Seattle. And they shipped it. It should have been here yesterday, but FedEx physically held my box in the, not my box, this box, but held it in their facility, which, thanks FedEx. Literally, the status said, basically to the effect of, it's too early to deliver, we're gonna hold it. Okay, how about we actually look at the lens now? So here's the lens. Really, no pomp and circumstance, just the lens and the hood come in plastic bags. So here's the lens. There's a little kind of protective film on the OLED display, which is one of my favorite features of the Batis lens. And lens hood. All right, so basically unboxing done, right? Very, very unceremonious. This goes into my basement. Okay. So, let me put this over here. So actually, timely question, Forrest. Forrest asks, Zeiss are only manual focus, correct? Incorrect, actually. The Batis line is automatic focus, specifically made for the full-frame Sony E-mount. Let me walk over here, and I'll just really quickly grab these lenses. And that's why I love having a wireless mic, because I can walk around my office and not worry about losing audio. But this is the Loxia series. So these are also full frame E-mount for Sony. These are manual focus, and you can see that, let me just take the lens hood off of, this is a 50 millimeter, but the considerable size difference and weight difference, wait, here we go, there. This doesn't need any sort of autofocus drive. It's just a prime 50 millimeter f2, beautiful lens, and this is a 35 millimeter f2, manual focus, but all the Batis here. So let me I'll take the lens hoods off for now and show you kind of a comparison. So which one's this? This is the 18, where'd the 25, there's the 25. So let me just, there we go. Can you see these? Yeah, let me move these back a little bit. Now, fortunately, the distance, let me see, can I put it up here? No, I need to get a platform or something. So one of the things I'm actually thinking about doing, and I got the blessing from my lovely wife who loved my post, we might build a set in our basement, similar to how our friends at Geeks Life and Geeks University have, because I'm constantly trying to modify things here for office furniture that was built without live broadcast in mind. So, yeah, Forrest, you should go to Sony someday, like today. So the 18 is just slightly taller than the 25, just slightly, like maybe a centimeter. And then the 85 is just, in terms of this, maybe half an inch taller. The 18 is wider, meaning the circumference is wider. And it's important to note that unlike the 25 and the 85, the 25 and the 85 are 67 millimeter threads for filters. And then you jump 2 stops to 77 millimeters, so 10 millimeters larger for the 18 millimeter. But even though it's an 18 millimeter lens, you still get to use filters. No, you don't need any rear gel filters. You don't need some crazy, what are those, the huge ones, LaCroix filters. Like you do like Nikon's 14-24, and I think Canon has that 11-24 where you can't use filters because it's so wide. 18 millimeters is nothing to shake a stick at. It's plenty wide resolution. And so just a wonderful lens. Again, 77 millimeter, which is still, fortunately, pretty much the most common filter size. Unlike like the Sony has the 24-70, the new GM, that's 82 millimeters because it's such big glass. And that's not nearly as common, so it's just one of those things to consider. I use filters all the time, and it helps to kind of, where I just have a 77 millimeter drop-in filter, and then I just use step-down rings. You can buy a step-down ring for like $8 to $10 on Amazon. So if I have a 77 millimeter filter, like a screw-on filter, I just buy, and I want to use it on one of these, I just buy a 77 millimeter to 67 millimeter step-down ring, and it works perfectly. So yeah, that's kind of, I'll put the lens on an A7R2 that I have here, just so you can see the size and weight. Oh, Ben Canales, man, you know, it's like a little man crush whenever you come join the show, so thank you. What does Ben say? Does the focus reset when the camera turns off? I find the perfect starry night infinity. If I find the perfect starry night, yeah, okay. So here's what Ben is asking. So let's say on a Loxia lens, I set the focus, done. Manual focus is done, the thing won't move. And what Ben is asking is, let's say he's at shooting stars at night, and he sets the, so we're gonna test this out. So he sets the camera to manual focus, and does his focus. So I'm gonna set this to 0.5 meters. Oh, it went away. It's set to 0.5 meters in manual focus. And I'm gonna turn the camera off. And so what Ben is wondering is if he turns the camera off and then we turn it back on, and then I set it back to manual focus. When I go to refocus, will it still be at 5 meters, or would it have reset? And that's a very fair question, because this is not a physical focus ring in terms of where you set it and it's done. Because this has an autofocus motor inside of it, it's possible that when the camera turns on, it reinitializes the lens. So I'm gonna I haven't touched anything. I'm gonna turn it on, set it to manual focus, and then turn, and Ben, it went to 0.3. So to answer your question, it sounds like it doesn't maintain focus. So I just set it again, turning the camera off, turning it on, manual focus, turn. Oh no, it stayed. I must have moved it. I'm gonna try it at this time at 0.9, which is kind of an arbitrary number. Off, on, manual focus, and it says 0.7. And I'm an idiot also because, hi guys, I need more coffee. I forgot that the lens has an OLED display. This display turns on when you turn on manual focus. So, okay, Ben, so here's what I have here. This is what we're going to look at. 0.7 plus 4 minus 4. Let's turn that off and turn it back on. This is a very good question. Set it to manual. Sorry, Ben. Sorry, Ben. I don't think that that's, yeah, I don't know if that's kind of a thing or if that's working as intended. That's a really interesting question that I'm going to ask my contacts at Zeiss because I can see why, well, this lens in particular, I can see why you'd be kind of interested. One, because of the focal length, 18 millimeters on a full frame sensor on the A7S II, which, Ben, amazing job with that stand-up paddleboard shot with Mount Hood. That was ridiculous at night. But yeah, 18 millimeters f2.8, great combination for star photography. But if you are turning it off for whatever reason, because you want to conserve battery, whatever it is, and then you turn it back on, correct. If you wanted to find true infinity, you don't want to worry about when you turn it on that it has moved focus, I guess, for lack of better words. So I'll look into that. So it's basically all my fault? Probably, Forrest. Yeah, I would say probably. So that was kind of, oh, and I have some photos. I forgot. I try to illustrate these things. I've shared these photos before, but let's take a look at some of the photos I've taken. This was back in January when I first got the prototype Batis 18 millimeter lens. We had snow. Probably the only time we had snow this season in the gorge area. And so I ran out. This is Multnomah Falls, the very famous Multnomah Falls. Probably for me, one of the purest excuses to go visit this fall is when there's snow, because pretty much any other time it's insane. Fortunately here there were hardly any people. And then a few other shots. On the left, that's a Multnomah Falls again, just a vertical. And then on the right, that's Lateral Falls with its famous kind of green mossy lichen stuff. And then the next day I went over to Gorton Creek. So this is Gorton Creek, just testing, filling the frame with all 18 millimeters. Francis is asking, can you cover lenses in the future for APS-C sensors for the A6000 or A6300? I can actually, Francis. Let me just go back here and turn that off so I don't have a photo on my face. I can do that. Actually, so switching lenses again. This lens that I'm pointing to you on, it's a Zeiss Tuit 12 millimeter f2.8. And that's made for cropped sensors. Even though I have it, and it works perfectly on the full frame sensor, because when I'm doing footage at 35 millimeters, there are no crops. Like if I was taking a photo right now using the full frame of the 12 millimeter, I'd have physical vignetting. Like you'd have the black sections around the frame because the sensor is larger than the actual lens itself. So I can talk about that later on. I love this lens. This is, again, a Zeiss Tuit, T-O-U-I-T, Tuit, 12 millimeter. And for those that are wondering what the designations are, you know, Zeiss has Tuit, Batis, Loxia, Milvis, Otis. Those are classifications for birds. So like, you know, there's kingdom, phylum, whatever. That's one of those things. And I just thought I don't know, drop some knowledge. So let me see if there are any questions that I missed. I think we're good. Dave Daniels. David Daniels, you're downstairs. I missed your question, but you can ask me later on. David was just complimenting the lens. So none of us, I think we can all admit, right? None of us are kind of strangers to selfies. We take selfies all the time, right? And for a long time, I kind of battled over this. That's me with one of my little puppies, Simon, when he was a puppy. You know, I'm totally cool with selfies as kind of a, okay, I'm here. But I saw this thing this video for a product, and let's just kind of take a look really quickly at this video, and then we'll come back and talk about it. It's short. It's only like a minute long. Let's check this out.
What's that?
What the hell is this? That's exactly what I need.
Like $1,000,000.
All right, so just to preface, that's not a real product. You can't actually buy it. It was, I guess, like a product promo or an idea for that show Unreal, which is why the credits are for Unreal. And at the very end, you saw that little promo for the show. Now, with that being said, if we're saying we're okay with selfies to a degree, you know, obviously not in a time when you could there's been some really, you know, ridiculous news going on recently with like that stupid Canadian bro group that hopped into the hot springs in Yellowstone, I think it was, and, you know, fully documented, you know, the infraction. Like those kinds of things, or when people, I mean, the news stories had more deaths last year from selfie-related accidents than shark attacks. You know, that's a really kind of weird statistic, or, you know, two kind of metrics to compare, but I can appreciate it to a degree. Let's put that all to the side, okay? So that kind of ridiculous self-absorption, that has no place in humanity whatsoever. But I'm not going to say, like, this photo that I have with my puppy Simon, like, yeah, I'm cool with that. I don't know. I don't think I shared it ever, but I was going through my photos catalog. Actually, big props to Google Photos, because all I did was open up Google Photos, click on you can sort by faces. I clicked on my face, and I found my photos. But to be fair, also, Apple on iOS, in the Photos app on iOS, has a selfies folder, so any photo taken with the front camera would be in there. Fine. I found this photo, took it about a year ago, totally forgot about it, and so that kind of stuff I totally am cool with. Now, so if we're saying that selfies are okay, that stick is pretty awesome. I don't care which way you slice it, that is pretty cool, and the reason why is because it's innovative. I don't know so much about the automatic telescoping feature. That to me, that's a motor and that's moving parts waiting to break. So be it. You know, if anything, you can kind of adjust on the fly, you know, how far or how close the camera lens is to you. Cool, fine. But having those little expanding beauty lights and then the two little fans to create kind of a windblown look, which really would be wonderful for my head of hair, I think that's pretty freaking cool. And I hope that product does get funded, because that's innovation to me. You know, selfie sticks, the selfie stick itself was an innovation for people who care enough to take selfies. You know, and then they added Bluetooth, you know, with a little trigger button so you can photograph it. Fine, so be it. This, I think, really takes it to the next level, especially because of the lights. I think that is, you know, they're using probably some low wattage LEDs. Probably, you know, doesn't take much battery power. and it has a little controller. The fans, I think that's pretty funny. I do hope that gets created. I want to see. Yeah, Mike is ice cold. It's so cool. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that to me is I like that kind of innovation. So here, Mike actually says here, Sony makes such great photo machines, but I can't bring myself to jump in. I wonder what's wrong with me. So that I can't answer because I'm not qualified to answer what's wrong with you. But I will say that the reason why I switched to Sony from Canon is the same reason why I'm actually so intrigued by this selfie stick, this next gen selfie stick, is because innovation. So Canon, listen, I'm not going to knock Canon. I've used Canon for a decade. They're great, but they aren't innovating. And for someone who's not just a photographer, but also kind of technologist, I like innovation. So when they released their little QC series, the little, here, I'll get it for you really quickly. This thing right here was the first thing that put Sony on my radar. I'll tell you straight up, I never in a million years considered Sony while I was a Canon shooter. But then they released this thing, which is it's a Bluetooth or a Wi-Fi lens with a sensor that's meant to pair to your phone. So, and it's still battery powered. I didn't think it'd have any battery. Let me switch to the wide so I can show you a little bit closer. And let me get rid of little Simon. Okay, so yeah, this is the QC100, or QX100. It has this kind of stretchable bracket that snaps onto your camera. You pair it, and then this was, definitely, and it has a optical zoom. So that's something that camera or mobile phones don't really have. But what it did was it bridged a gap with the older mobile phones that didn't have very strong optics or very strong sensors. Now, the camera sensor in an iPhone is quite ridiculous, and it's actually a Sony sensor. And now you've got also optics that kind of complement that. So when Sony released this, that got me really interested because they were like, I'm like, oh man, they really, I mean, the R&D and then the fabrication, the production of new products is not cheap, even if you're as big as Sony. So I respected that they were innovating. And then they released their, the RX1, which I don't own, but that was the world's first full-frame mirrorless camera with an integrated 35mm lens. And I was like, oh, that just means that the next step is this, an interchangeable lens camera, full-frame mirrorless, which was the A7 and the A7R. And when I saw that, and then they were so forward-thinking in their marketing, being so bullish about adapting third-party lenses. So the upfront investment for me was $1,000 for an A7, and then $300 or $400 for the Metabones adapter. And then I had all of my Canon lenses, and I used that for about 9 months. And if you go to my store, you could download my ebook, Moving to Mirrorless, which is totally free. And I talk about this. So for 9 months, I used Canon lenses. I got to that point where I was so frustrated with the lack of native autofocus that I just ended up switching whole hog. And I haven't looked back once. I don't have a single Canon lens. The only third-party lens I have, and I don't count Zeiss as third-party, is a Rokinon 12mm, which I got because it was an Amazon Gold box for like $300. So, yeah, I mean, that's why a selfie stick, just kind of bringing this full circle, that's why a selfie stick like this really kind of resonates with me, because someone's thinking outside of the box, and they're thinking outside of the box to build a product that millions upon millions of people will use millions and millions of times a day. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to think of a product that will get critical mass quickly, that's how you do it. You don't build something for 5% of a user base, unless, I mean, look at the what was it, the Pono or whatever, the Neil Young or Neil Diamond, Neil Young, I don't know, one of those Neils, that like ultra high fidelity music player that's like for audiophiles, and like that thing is tanking. But you look at the iPod, I'm talking about the original iPod. Nothing, you know, it was a hard drive. I think it was a 4 gigabyte hard drive, 1,000 songs in your pocket. I mean, who doesn't want that? So yeah, that's kind of a, more philosophical way of how I look at products. So I wish them success, even if it is for selfies. So that's it. That's our show for today. I'm gonna see if there are any last comments. Don't think so. Oh wait, Rajesh. Brian, does the Batis 18mm have a way to focus to infinity with a hard stop? Or some way of turning it to an infinity mark? Okay, yes, so Rajesh, here you go, if you're still here. Let me switch to this wide cam. All right, so I'm gonna put it to, oops. All right, so there. Notice how as I focus, it's changing. You can see the distance readout, and then eventually there's infinity. And so it reaches a point where it shows you the infinity mark. So I hope that answers your question. That LED is actually quite functional. It actually facilitates hyperfocal distance calculations. It's pretty cool. So let's see what else. I think we're, oh wait, so Nicole's saying, I love the Tuit lenses. I have the 32 and the 12mm for her Fuji X-T1. Yeah, the Tuit is made for crop sensors. So this Tuit has a E-mount on the back of it for the Sony A6300, A6000, even the A7. And then Nicole's got the same line, but with a Fuji mount. So, and then, like I said, Zeiss makes lenses for Canon, Nikon, Fuji, and Sony. So for Canon and Nikon, you've got the Otis and the Milvus, which is, I think, their newest line. But I haven't used them at all. All right, I think we are kind of good here. Let's just wrap it up with the social card. So I would love it if you followed me around. You're already here on Facebook, but I'm also on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and YouTube. Just / Brian Matias on all of those. That's where you'll find me. And I'm gonna see, I might do a show tomorrow, but we'll see if oh actually no, I think I will, because I have a new topic I want to talk to you about, really kind of important topic. So thank you everyone for your participation. You guys make this such a wonderful experience, and I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I will see you on the next one. Bye everyone.